Yo, 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 yo. What's going on? It's your boy Hat 2BX TV, man. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Bias Basement. Hey, I know y'all see the title to this video right here. We got Andrew Branca, Branca, whatever, however you say his last name, is what's wrong with America today. Now, I don't know if you know who Andrew is, but Andrew is like a famous defense attorney, law defense attorney, and I don't know if he still practice law, but I know he has a show and it's on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? So this is a defense attorney, and my whole thing about even reacting to this is just this is how a lot of white America thinks. You know what I'm saying? A lot of white America, a lot of people in his age demographic, this is how they think and feel. And you know, we're gonna get right into it. But before we get into it, please like and subscribe to the channel and be in them comments because you know I'm in them comments. But let's see this. Let's hear what Andrew Branca has to say on his show. Well, he talks about Karmelo Anthony. Now, if y'all don't know who Karmelo Anthony is, he's a kid that stabbed another a twin kid at a track meet. He got sentenced to like 35 years, and a lot of people. It was a white kid. Carmelo Anthony is, of course, is black. A lot of people feel that the sentence that he got of 35 years was unjust, and I feel and I agree that that sentence was way too much. But let's hear what Andrew had to say.
Carmelo Anthony had a history of assaulting people. His record for violence goes back to when he was 6 or 7 years old. As I mentioned, he was living in Louisiana prior to moving to Texas. He allegedly punched another student despite already having been counseled to keep his hands to himself. When he was 10 years old, he was placed in Louisiana's psychological department's behavioral plan. It didn't work. It didn't work. Another incident took place in 2021, this time involving a teacher. Look at that hair, by the way. That's his mugshot photo after he murdered Austin Metcalf. This is his prison photo now. A little bit different. Carmelo Anthony threatened to shoot the school up in a shocking text kept from the jury in his trial. The state also had evidence showing Anthony talked about using weapons like assault rifles. All of this, of course, could have been used against him by the prosecution in court.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the new dream team for Carmelo Anthony, and it's all people. Well, it's an interesting group. It's a group that seems drawn to this case more for the self-aggrandizement than actually helping this kid, Carmelo Anthony. One of his lawyers, an attorney named Justin Moore, former Dallas County Assistant DA, he was terminated from his position following an arrest that received significant media attention. He was pulled over by police and he was non-compliant in the traditional fashion, refused to exit his vehicle when told to, couldn't come up with his license, refused to participate in field sobriety test, did the whole "do you know who I am" nonsense, ended up losing his job over it. That's that guy. Quite the winner. Carmelo's father, it won't surprise you. Not that Carmelo is guilty of the sins of his father. None of us ought to be held accountable for the sins of our father. But Trayvon Martin's dad was a gang member, Crips or Bloods, I forget now which, with the neck tattoo, the whole thing. And Carmelo Anthony's dad also turns out to be interesting. He had an active warrant for his arrest in Louisiana, not covering a parking ticket or a vehicle violation ticket. Amiri King, I share his content from time to time, says, "Be Carmelo." He's being sarcastic, of course.
Wait a minute. So now, this is what we have a problem with. We have a problem with people, media, professionals. Now, this is a law defense attorney. Like he's not supposed to see color. He's supposed to just represent the case. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's not on the case, but he's supposed to represent the case. You're looking at some kid history, and notice how he only said one side of. I guarantee you that the Metcalf twins and their dad has an even more violent history than Karmelo Anthony. And then to bring his dad up and a lawyer for what? What are you getting at with this? You saying that we're all thugs or something? Like, why would you even bring that up? Like, what you bringing up the dad? Do you said you mentioned you mentioned you mentioned other people, other tragedies that happen with their parents, and they're supposed to be gang members, and then you go to Carmelo Anthony's dad, and you talk about a parking ticket. He has a warrant for a parking ticket. Well, he's such a criminal. There's so much criminal behavior. It's hard to digest, and this is what I'm talking about. I wonder if you ever going to talk about the Metcalf twins and their history. Because you only make it seem like Carmelo Anthony and the side that represents Carmelo Anthony are the thugs. I'm just saying. I have no horse in this race. I'm just saying, just off of just noticing your takes, because I'm interested, and you're a law professional, you're a lawyer, so it just seems like it's one sided. Like you already have your mind made up.
Your girlfriend breaks up with you, so you stalk and harass your girlfriend. The girlfriend goes to the school office, expresses concern for her safety. Then you, Camelo, text someone how you're on the edge, on the verge, how you want to stab someone and lick the knife. Show up at a random track event under a school tent, a school you don't attend. Clearly looking for trouble, knife and backpack. No one knows who you are. Students become suspicious, ask you to leave the tent multiple times. You refuse to leave because you're becoming belligerent and aggressive. Students become even more concerned. A student nudges you.
Notice how he used subtle words like nutted. They come concerned. They nudged him. Come on, man. Like, so you said Carmelo Anthony killed Austin Metcalf because he was nudged. You never bring up, and not one clip do you bring out, even though he has this past history of behavior problems. He never put his hands on nobody. You could say, well, it's weird kids. There's a lot of weird kids out here. Trust me, there's a lot of weird kids out here that's doing a lot of weird shit that I don't understand. It was weird kids when I was growing up. It's gonna be weird kids, and they're gonna do black, white, in between. There's a lot of weird kids, and they do a lot of weird shit. So don't get me started on violence and all that shit. But for you to just depict, for you to say all this and leave out one of the key factors of they approached him. How was he aggressive? He didn't approach them. They weren't already in the tent. He got approached. You leave that out and you say nudged. Everybody was concerned. He was a random. How was he random and he ran up to the coach? As soon as that incident happened, he ran up to the person that he knew and told him what happened. That don't seem random.
You stab that student, Austin Metcalf, in the heart, killing him in front of his twin brother. Then you run from the scene. You get caught. You go to court. Every black.
He didn't get caught. He turned himself in. And see, and this is the narrative that a lot of people, a lot of black people can get with. So, because when they turn on the news and they say if you don't, say if you've never heard this story before, and the first thing you hear is this lawyer saying that he got caught. Carmelo Anthony stabbed a kid at a track meet, pulled out a knife because the kid nudged him, and he got caught. He ran, but got caught. No, he ran away from the crowd of people ran to an adult, told the adult what happened, didn't run anywhere, and waited for the cops. He didn't get caught. He gave himself up. I done watched a lot of cops and robber movies, and I watch cops a lot. And normally, when somebody trying to get away, they get caught. That means that the police jumping on them, arresting them. Karmelo Anthony got gently handcuffed. It wasn't no interaction. He didn't refuse arrest or anything because he gave himself up. But you won't say that. You won't say that.
Juror who was prospective juror refused to not be biased, said they could not be unbiased. That's why they were not seated. And that jury with no black people on it gives you 35 years of prison. Black people claim racism, celebrate Austin's death, urinate on his grave. Remember those images? Everybody screaming, free Karmelo Anthony. Like this crowd, free Karmelo.
Now, I don't agree with all that shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? The extra stuff, a lot of black people ain't agree with it, and black people, not all black people don't speak for all black people. I don't even speak for all black people. But let me tell you one thing that I think that 80% of the black people agree with. That 35-year sentence that kid got was way too much for his first offense. His first offense. The kid ain't. He's a fucking smart student. He don't get in trouble. I don't know. He had behavioral problems when he was a kid. That's what you're telling me, and he talked about guns and stuff like that. I wonder what you failed to leave out in these on your show, Andrew. I just it's just more. We got more because of course we got more. So here's a news broadcast that's being
details about Austin Metcalf's background. Metcalf and his brother Hunter were once caught spray painting graffiti, including KKK Kill All Blacks and Heil Hitler, along with the N-word, and were sentenced to 12 months of juvenile probation. Records reveal they reportedly told authorities, "We did some dumb stuff. We did some vandalism." There are several documented instances of Austin using racial slurs in school, and in 2023, Austin was accused of bullying a black student in class. In 2018, while still in elementary school, Austin and his brother were accused of bullying and assaulting a female, which led to his arrest. During an argument in 2024 with another female student, Austin allegedly knocked her to the ground and punched her in the stomach. He was also kicked out of a football game and texted someone later, "I was about to beat the expletive out of those kids." At a previous track meet, when another student alerted Austin that someone not on their team, quote, "behind our bench was talking wild," Austin reportedly replied, "Kill that MF." During the 2023-2024 school year, he received in-school suspension twice. School disciplinary records from April 2022 to May 2024 reveal that Austin reportedly called a teacher the B word and used profanity. He told a school official that he couldn't control it and wasn't aware that it was coming out of his mouth. In 2024, on at least 5 occasions, Austin saw a counselor regarding his anger and rage during a football game. In 2021, he got banned from attending basketball games for a season after yelling profanity at a player. Metcalf also got suspended after he and another student were talking about bringing a gun to school the following day.
So it seems like if you're not being biased about your opinion about anything, that both of these kids got a little troubled history. But one seems more racial incentivized than others, and that's on the behalf of the Metcalf twins. Now, you would think that this professional lawyer, Andrew, would have all that. If he knew about Karmelo Anthony's background, you know he knows about the Metcalf twins' background. But you didn't hear him say that. And this is why we have a problem. And this is why a lot of black people don't trust the media. And this is why We want our own investigations done. We want to be represented. And this is why we think this whole case is racist because you're supposed to get judged by your peers. Now, if I got all the jurors, if I'm a black person and I'm on trial for my life and I have a all white jury, hell yeah, I'm gonna think it's racist. Hell yeah. We didn't get not one, not one. You talking about this wasn't they made this kid look like an angel. And how you talk about Carmelo Anthony this is the devil. I just it's like and you don't believe me. And I'm like, it just amazes me how you're a professional and you say stuff like this. Fear of being called racist by violent criminals keep walking free.
Can't help themselves. And they immediately fold. Someone says, well, there's a disproportionate number of black men in prison. It has to be your racism, white people. And the white people feel bad and then they don't prosecute anymore. And they release them early. And we're exactly where we are right now. And so part of the solution, part of actually dealing with known violent predators in a decisive manner means having to set aside our sensitivity about being called racist. We just have to say, sorry, I may not have an explanation for why the black community is so violent, but they are. Not all of them, of course, but disproportionately. And therefore, there's a rational, race neutral, in terms of motivation, reason why they're disproportionately represented in the prison population. And the only way to have that conversation is for the Overton window to shift, is for people to become more comfortable with acknowledging that there are racial differences among different demographic groups.
Yeah. There are more white police officers, there are more white police chiefs, there are more white mayors, there are more white senators, there are more white politicians, there are more people that there are more who do you want to go by? Like what are you getting by when you say this? Like I'm confused. And then we find out that a lot of the statistics that y'all be going by be wrong. A lot of it. A lot of it is of course, if you put more police in a black community, there are gonna be more black arrests. If you put more police, say if you took police and put them in a Puerto Rican community, they're gonna be more Puerto Rican community. But wherever there's police in a community that dominates another ethnic community, it is gonna be more arrests. And of course, and of course, you see black people as threats. That's all that is. It's just, most of the times you see black people as threats. How many countless videos do you see of police abusing their power? How many and most of the time these black people get hit with these charges because they can't afford to fight them. So they plead out, take the charge. They don't know their rights. They're not taught that in school. They're not taught certain things in school. They're not taught accounting or banking or credit. The things that we should know as adults, you guys are not teaching us and you guys don't want us to know. But
Reflected in things like proclivity to crime, tendency to commit crimes. And this has been true for as long as we've had data. Indeed, it predates the Great Society. Did you know that? A lot of people are under the belief that it was LBJ who set the groundwork for crime in the black community, a disproportionately high crime rate in the black community, because he drove fathers out of the home. And he did drive fathers out of the home with his welfare policies.
mm-hmm.
There's no question about that. But and of course, one would expect one would expect to have a higher rate of crime amongst young teenage men if they're in a household with no father figure. I would expect that too. What's interesting about this, however, is that we were having this problem with the black community, this high crime problem, before LBJ's LBJ's Great Society. This is a Time magazine article from 1958. It's titled "The Negro Crime Rate: A Failure in Integration." In 1,500 U.S. cities, according to the FBI, in 1956 is what the data is drawn from. Black people, making up 10% of the population, accounted for about 30% of all arrests, and 60% of the arrests are crimes involving violence or threat of bodily harm. So the advent of the welfare state does not appear to be the cause here.
So let me guess. So you take an old statistic from a time where there was segregation and people didn't want to have they didn't want to integrate schools. A lot of people. 1956 is like a year that, like, why would you even bring that up? Like, it was still, it was racial tension was even at like its highest because people were starting to get rights. Black people were starting to build communities and stuff on their own, and there was still a lot of racial tension. Come on, like I don't know. You reading a old ass article from a time where it was probably way more racial tension than it is even now, and you talking about they had a problem? Yeah, they had a problem because some other a group of white people felt like, hey, what we're doing is wrong, and black people should have rights too. And then there's a lot of groups of other white people that felt that we didn't need those rights, that we don't need to integrate schools and all that shit. And come on, man, I just like you read something like that, and that's just terrible. Like why would you even read old information like that? Like, there's like bring up something from now. Talk about 2026. You talking about something almost 80 years ago. I'm talking about now.
There was a cause that pre-existed that. But we've all been socially conditioned to pretend that, well, if black people are being locked up at a higher rate, it must be because the white people are racist. We can't have an honest discussion because people have a viscerally negative response to these kinds of conversations. But unless we can have an honest conversations on this topic, you can't solve the problem, because solving the problem will inevitably result in a disproportionate number of young black men in prison because they're the ones committing the crime.
And he's a lawyer. We have, and this is what I'm saying. That's why black, when you get arrested, people be like, man, just have some money for a lawyer because you just don't want a public defender because he's a defense attorney. Just imagine if he was your public offender. Now here's one more. I got one more video. It says Jacob Blake was armed, and every major news network lied about it. Okay.
And who is unarmed? That's Jacob Blake she's talking about. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, of course. Yesterday in Wisconsin, she wrote at the time, a police officer shot Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man, a father, shot him 7 times in the back, calling for a thorough investigation. Here's the problem, of course. Jacob Blake he was armed. He had a knife in his hand. He had a knife in his hand. He was climbing into a vehicle full of small children after being non-compliant with police who were ordering his lawful arrest. He pulls out a knife and he starts climbing into that car, packed with little kids. The cops can't let him drive that car away, knife in hand. So they're ordering him to stop, and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're hoping he'll comply. But ultimately, when he's climbing into the vehicle, they couldn't let him drive away under those circumstances. They shot him in the back. It's not inherently unlawful to shoot somebody in the back. The legal requirements are, is that person representing as an imminent, unlawful, deadly force threat to innocent people? If they are, and they happen to have your back, they happen to have their back to you, You can shoot him in the back. Whatever it takes to neutralize that imminent, unlawful, deadly force threat to innocence.
I agree.
And anyone who watched that original video could clearly see the knife in Jacob Blake's hand. The news media would show you little clipped versions where his hand was next to his dark pants, so you couldn't make out the dark colored knife. And of course, again, circling back to Karmelo Anthony. This is the Karmelo Anthony photo they put on his Give, Send, Go. At this point, they'd only raised, I say only, like it's not a lot of money. They'd raised $163,000. But of course, ultimately, they would go on to raise nearly $1 million for Karmelo Anthony. This is what Karmelo Anthony actually looked like the day he stabbed Austin Metcalf to death. Clean cut, what's commonly referred to as tarantula hair. This is a hairstyle that's intended to communicate a particular kind of message. And the message is not peacefulness and law abiding. And again, every one of these cases has the same pattern over and over and over again. It's unbelievable how consistent it is. In fact, Karmelo Anthony's trial lawyer, who people criticized, of course, his client was convicted, got 35 years in jail. People criticized him. And I was constantly cautioning people that you have to be careful about criticizing a trial lawyer because all lawyers are stuck with the facts the client gives them. And you have shitty facts, you're going to have a very difficult case. And the facts in the Karmelo Anthony case were pretty bad. The evidence was overwhelming. There was literally zero evidence that I saw that was consistent with self-defense. None. Nothing. He might have had some, of course, if he could have taken the witness stand and made some self-serving statements about being scared of Austin Metcalf. That's why he stabbed him. But he couldn't do that. He couldn't afford to take the witness stand because of his long history.
And this is what we're talking about. You just I don't watch like 6 clips, and you failed to mention the twins' past history and their violent history when they get suspended from school, making racial slurs and things like that. They're getting probation. I don't see Carmelo Anthony on probation. They're needing counseling. They're having in-school suspensions. You don't say nothing about that, Andrew. And that's why a lot of black people have a lot of issues trusting. Because then and I don't know what this was about the hair. What is it about the tarantula hair that shows a pattern? What does a hairstyle has to do with a pattern of violence? You said this hairstyle represents that people kill people because he got fucking the tarantula hair, as you call it. Let's hear. I just want to hear that again because I was confused.
At this point, they'd only raised, I say only, like it's not a lot of money. They'd raised $163,000. But of course, ultimately, they would go on to raise nearly $1 million for Karmelo Anthony. This is what Karmelo Anthony actually looked like the day he stabbed Austin Metcalf to death. Clean cut, what's commonly referred to as tarantula hair. This is a hairstyle that's intended to communicate a particular kind of message. And the message is not peacefulness and law abiding. And again, every one of these cases has the same pattern over.
See this hair? Everybody breaks the law with this hairstyle, according to Andrew. Everybody. So you can't wear this hairstyle because this doesn't represent peacefulness, as he said, as this professional, articulate lawyer says. This represents gang-related bad intentions. This hairstyle right here. I just want to let you know that.
And over again. It's unbelievable how consistent it is. In fact, Karmelo Anthony's trial lawyer, who people criticized, of course, his client was convicted, got 35 years in jail. People criticized him. And I was constantly cautioning people that you have to be careful about criticizing a trial lawyer because all lawyers are stuck with the facts the client gives them. And you have shitty facts, you're going to have a very difficult case. And the facts in the Karmelo Anthony case were pretty bad. The evidence was overwhelming. There was literally zero evidence that I saw that was consistent with self-defense. None. Nothing. He might have had some, of course, if he could have taken the witness stand and made some self-serving statements about being scared of Austin Metcalf. That's why he stabbed him. But he couldn't do that. He couldn't afford to take the witness stand because of his long history of violent behavior dating back to the age of 6.
And there you have it, man. And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about just fairness and we want to be treated equally. You failed to mention any past behavior about the Metcalf twins. You failed to mention any past history of the dad, the parents. And you make a hairstyle. I wonder what mass shooters, all these white mass shooters or stuff, what I wonder, do you have a description for that? Like, what hairstyle does the mass shooter have? The guy that killed the Luigi kid. I wonder what his hairstyle was when he shot and killed the CEO of a healthcare company. I wonder what he did. I wonder what the guy that the kid that shot uh, Charlie Kirk. I wonder what his description of his hairstyle was. Like, you say shit like, and and people be having a hard time just listening, like, because common sense shit that people say, like, I don't care how smart you are, you could say the most ignorant and stupidest shit. Like, that has no bearing on anything. Your hairstyle doesn't mean anything, doesn't represent peacefulness or anything like that. It's a fucking hairstyle. And for you to just use your show and promote a certain ideology, I can't even say the fucking word. Certain ideas about just Karmelo just being a thug since 6 years old and had bad behavior problems. What about the other people? It's kids that got a lot of behavior problems. Y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think, man. It's your boy Hat to Reacts TV, man. With that being said, I'm going to the next one. Peace.